Hey guys, welcome back to another live podcast of RepPath. Today, guys, we're going to talk about what I feel is the number one issue in medical sales, and that's access. So we're going to talk about this. For some of you experienced guys, love to get your questions because this is something that I know hits close to home. And for a lot of you younger individuals, I want you to have a real understanding of what you're facing out there before you decide to get into this industry. But before we get into that, guys, some quick housekeeping. Thank you again for joining us. As always, we are live on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're also on every podcast platform. If anybody has any questions, please, from this moment on, submit them into the chat, and James will take care of that, and we'll address those about halfway through the show. So please, anything on your mind, please just get that going. If anybody wants to see a copy of this podcast, excuse me, or any other content that we come out with, please make sure that you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. You could see it right there on the screen. So please make sure that you go click and subscribe to that. It's 100% free. And last but most important, anybody looking to get into this industry, you have to, no more ifs, ands, or buts about it. Reach out to me today to talk about the RepPath Academy. You could see here on our website, reppath.com. You can learn more about the Academy. But at the bottom, guys, these are individuals just like you. You could see the testimonials of young individuals, either just graduating, looking to get their new job in their career, just still in college without sales experience. You're going to hear all their stories. Guys, you can do it too. So please, we're helping thousands of candidates break into this industry, more every week. Please make sure, join the Rep Academy. If you want, reach out via LinkedIn, and you could send me a DM, or also just go right straight through the website, reppath.com. All right, awesome. So enough of that. So dive right into it today. Guys, I love this topic because it's real, okay? Access is the number one challenge you're going to face in medical sales, and you're still going to face even if you've been doing this 30 years. I know a lot of you out there are thinking the same thing. So for some of you young reps that don't really have an understanding, you're going to get your first medical sales job. You're going to go into training, and you're going to be all fired up. It's going to be awesome. They're going to teach you all about your products. You're going to believe, I got the best product on the market. I don't know why that previous rep left, or why is there an opening? How come everyone else isn't so happy to sell this drug or sell this device? This is how you really come out of training. You're fired up because companies do a great job of really positively promoting their products. I mean, that's what they should be doing, and hopefully you do really have a great product. All right. But when you get out there and then you go to your first account and you're walking into the door, and I've been there, guys, you're walking in, you're all excited, you got your new suit on, you're all fired up to sell your new device, new drug. You get in there, receptionist looks like she's had the worst day of her life. She's all pissed off. What do you want? We don't see reps, please don't come again. And it just deflates you. Or you go in, drop your card off. The receptionist might be nice to you, but sorry, doctor doesn't see reps, and you're just like, wow. Then you go to your next office, sorry, doctor doesn't see reps. Sorry, doctor doesn't see reps. You get a whole day of this, maybe a whole week of this. It starts to defeat you. You start to get deflated. You start wondering, what the hell am I doing? I can't even sell my new product. I can't even get in front of a doctor. So this is real. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit that you're going to go your first week and not see any doctors. I mean, that's, odds are that's not going to happen. Somebody should see you, but it might not. You might not. So just want you to understand, guys, they do not care as much about your drug or your medical device as you do. That's a fact, especially that first meeting. But I want you to remember these first couple of weeks, because trust me, guys, the ones that stick it out and really bust their ass and figure out how to get access. And that's what we're going to go over today, because this is very important. I hope a lot of you are on this call because I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. But you're going to look back at those first couple of weeks and be like, holy shit, I can't remember. I remember when I used to come in here and everyone was like mad when they saw me. Now, all of a sudden, you have access. The doctor, they don't even ask anymore when you walk in. You just walk right in the back. I've been there. This happens, guys. You're going to get to that point with some of your doctors. Not all of them, but it is going to get better. So no matter how bad access is that first day, don't worry, it gets better. But you have to work at it. Doesn't just you keep going once a week and just like that, everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, you passed the test. In the first 3 months, we're told to ignore you, and then all of a sudden we can let you in the back. No, you got to work at it. And you got to get creative. So just to let you know how things typically would work, where reps would see doctors, they would, for instance, if they're selling pharma, they would get in the back by just having samples. You have samples, you refill the sample closet, or wherever the shelves are, you see reps back there. They're always trying to get eye level. It's like being in a supermarket where you want to get where the doctor is going to see that your drugs. So you're always fighting for certain space. People are moving out other reps' drugs, and then you sit there with your sign-in pad, wait for the doctor to come out. Doctor gives you about 30 seconds. Hey, Joe, what's new? What's going on? Sign the sign-in pad, and then you go. I mean, that's typically how a lot of reps in the pharma side would see doctors, or they'll do a breakfast or a lunch, where they get some time with the physician, and they were also back in the day, they would let reps just go in the back. And they would see them as they come in and out. But again, it's a new, worse and worse over the years, but it's the worst it's ever been, and it's not going to get better. COVID made it even worse in a lot of these hospitals and accounts. So you got to be prepared for that. And that doesn't mean that the industry's dead, that's it. I just got to pick something else. He keeps saying it's getting worse. No, this separates, the high performers from the middle of the pack. What are you going to do to stand out from the crowd? So it's just a different game, and you got to be willing to play it if you really want to be successful in this business. Because if not, don't get into this business. It's not going to be you walking in and out of accounts. It just doesn't happen. When you go into a hospital, which is the toughest in terms of access. So for some of you newbies out there that are getting in front of some of these going in office-based sales, and you're like, shit, this is pretty tough. I probably only see 20% of the doctors I call on. Realize that the hospital space is even harder. So you have to be what's called credentialed. You have to get set up with a vendor credentialing service. Each hospital goes under a different service. It could be vendor made, IntelliCentric, Simpler. These are different names that you guys can look up. And then you got to make sure that you have all your documentation uploaded into their system. They're going to be everything, guys, from your license to blood work, from your immunizations to different hospital exams that you have to take. For like OR protocol, bloodborne pathogens. There's a ton of different things that they'll ask you that you have to be up to date with your paperwork for you to even be considered credentialed at that whatever institution it is. Now, after you're credentialed, when you go in, you'll sign in and you'll see the kiosk. Usually it's by the front desk of the hospital, or it'll be by security. So you got to go down to security and then you sign in. When you sign in, they're going to ask you basically as part of the sign in, not only if you don't have one of those pieces of paperwork or one of the requirements filled out or up to date, and it happens all the time, you are going to get a failed access. So it's going to basically say red, you cannot enter. So now what do you do? All right. So that's a problem. But say you have everything up to date. Now say everything is fine on your end. You even went to go see the doctor this week. You stopped in his office. Doctor said, Joe, yep, I got a case on Thursday. Susan will set you up. That's my office manager. She'll get you in the system and make sure you're set up to cover the case on Thursday. I want to try your new device out. Awesome. Now they forget to call the hospital and send an email to let you know that you're coming in at that time. So now you did everything on your end, but the office got busy. Now they don't have you in the system at the hospital. So guess what? You're not getting in. Okay. Now you got to scramble, call the office, see if they could send something that'll get you into that case. But the whole reason I'm bringing all this up, guys, and again, I'm not doing this to be doom and gloom. I'm doing this to be real. This is real what you're going to face. It's going to happen to all of you. I don't care how up to date you are in your paperwork. I don't care how much you set reminders. Tell the hospital. I mean, you're going to do all those things, but there's times that you just don't get. You're not allowed to get in, and this is the dynamic that we're dealing with. So you always have to be creative and start thinking of other ways to get in front of these doctors. One of the first, because we're just going to dive right into strategies. One of the things that you guys might say, oh yeah, Joe, I've tried that. I do that. I call BS to a lot of candidates that tell me that. And one of the things I'm asking you to do is create a video message. So the exact same message that you would give if the doctor gave you 30 seconds, right? If he says, Joe, and this would happen. Joe, I'm sorry. I'm having a crazy day. I got a lot going on. What do you got for me? All right. That's his nice way of saying, you got 30 seconds to tell me what the hell you're selling today. All right. I want you all to go home and create a personalized message to whoever that doctor is. Now, you're going to have to make a couple of these. Obviously, you're not just personalizing it and then sending that same message to Dr. Jones. You're going to send it out to everyone. Obviously, that's not going to work. But I want you to create a video message of what is your 30-second pitch about your product. You got to get to the point, right? But I want you to do that and send that out to customers. You could send it via LinkedIn if you don't have their email. You want to try to get some sort of contact for that doctor. But everyone now, guys, is on social media. So I would say the first place to choose, if you don't have an email for that doctor or a cell phone or any other way to get your message across, I want you to send it via LinkedIn. All right. And because people are 70% more likely to open up a link to a video attachment than they are to some, big 10-page study or whatever documentation you want them to read. Or if you're going to write them this 3-paragraph essay in the email, people aren't reading that shit. But a video, they're more likely to open that up. So all of you today, go out and start making video sales pitches. All right. Start there, because you have to get used to this, guys. It's a totally different ball game now, where they're not going to let you in there. You got to find ways to get your messaging across, and it's got to be concise. Don't give me the 15-minute presentation like if you were in a lunch. No one's going to watch that shit. You got to give them a little taste, so then they contact you and say, Joe, I'd like to learn more about it. And you will get that. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to just start sending out videos and all of a sudden doctors will be like, this is so brilliant. I want you to come into my practice. I can't believe you thought of a video. Of course, it's not so ingenious. Whole point is, not everyone does it. They say they do. They don't. I know they don't. Because when I train them and I coach them to do this, I could see how they're flustered when they're setting it up. And then I know once in a while when I do have someone that does this, because they're on, man. They could show me how they do the video. They know how they set up their camera. They got a tripod. They have it set up. This is exactly what I show. Here's my product. Here's the way I angle the camera so you could get a better view. These are all important things that you're going to screw up at first because you never did it. Then the more you do it, you're going to get better and better, and the videos are going to be better, and they're going to be more impactful. You could even pick one of the top reasons that doctors use you and just share that. You could make it into a video series where you're going to hit Dr. Jones with a video every Monday morning. It's going to be your Monday morning routine. The routine is key, guys, because people, again, they're going to ignore you at the beginning. But if you send me a message 5-6 weeks in a row, I'm more likely to be like, what the hell is this guy keep sending me this every Monday? They're going to eventually open that up. But you can come to an office 5 months in a row. If they don't see reps in that office, you got to figure out other ways, because they can ignore you forever. So the videos, guys, start making them now. Start coming up and personalize it. Hey, Dr. Jones, I've been trying to call on you for the past few months. Obviously, you don't see reps in your office, so I thought this would be easier. I want you to just quickly look at what I have to present today, and then you get into that quick little spiel of what you're looking at, and you're trying to get in front of him. This whole thing is to actually get in front of the doctor, because eventually you do, to really be able to sell. Got to have a dialogue Might be a Zoom call, whatever it is, there's got to be a two-way street because very few people are going to be like, I love what that rep says in that video. I'm just going to start using them. No, they need more information. They need you to get in front of them and answer some more questions. But this is the first tip, guys. Start making these videos today, and start with anywhere a minimum of 5, but goal is start at least with 10. Create 10 of them. It's going to take you a little bit of time, but I'd rather see you do that because I was always the type, and this is where I screwed up. I always wanted to just get out there. That was my mentality. Just go. It doesn't work. You could go, and just drive around to offices. What the hell is that going to do if a lot of these people aren't going to see you? So keep the car in the driveway, guys. Spend the first half of your day making videos. Tell your company, you're trying to think of outside of the box ideas. I've been calling on these doctors for weeks at a time. No one's seeing me. So I decided instead of driving around the state today, the first half of the day, I'm going to make these videos and I'm going to get these pumped out to my customers. Your company's got, if they don't agree with that, guys, then they're clueless too. But most of your managers are understanding and they're knowing that, so what, your car's in the driveway, but you're getting this done. This is still valuable time that you're getting your messaging across because that's the most important thing. So that's what I suggest, guys. Get it out, minimum of 5, but let's shoot for 10 and then reach out to me and let me know how it works. And then we could also discuss different approaches to be able to really craft just a well-crafted video. We could talk about those ideas, but start thinking of ideas now. Start thinking of those pain points, because before you have a conversation with someone, again, it's hard to find out all this information. So if you have minimal information, at least talk about what your other customers are talking about and what they see the value in this. So you could say, speaking with other physicians, this is where they really see the value, and get to that point with the 1 or 2 things that's the main reason why doctors use your product. Start there. All right. So we got videos. We're going to start doing these instead of just sending out emails. Emails are good. Don't get me wrong. It's still another way. But if you're constantly just sending, hey, let's try it again this week, couldn't see you, and then you write this long description of what your product does and have all this data, guys, trust me, it's very rare that a doctor's going to read all that. They need to see a face too. You want to smile, be happy, be energetic in the video. Doctors, they like that. I mean, people like people that they're likable on screen. They're more likely to speak to you. If they just see emails all the time, they get images of just like another annoying rep. But when they see you're a good person on screen and I can trust you, there's ways that when they constantly are getting videos and updates and showing them that you care about their patients and their practice, and have it geared toward that, geared towards bringing value. Everything you send has to bring value, and it's got to make sense. And the more that you find out about that doctor, then you could obviously tweak your messaging so it's going along with his or her key drivers. And that's how you really start to make progress. But you got to start somewhere. Okay. And I'm working with groups, and I'm going to tease this a little bit, but we are coming out with technology that's going to be amazing, guys. That's going to help you get more information before you get out in front of your customers. To me, I think it's going to be a game changer. I think it's, there's a lot of AI, a lot of stuff going out down there, but I think what we're working on, with this team that I'm collaborating with, they have some really interesting stuff that's not only getting you more information, but it's also helping you with your work that you have to, when you're actually entering in these calls, and they help you with follow-ups. And it does so much that I think it really is going to be a game changer. But that information that they're going to be able to get in your hands, so you have some back information about these physicians that's real and actionable, it's going to be awesome. So, okay. But before I digress, I beat that to death with the videos and getting that messaging. Next, guys, you got to stop just being so tunnel vision that I got to see the doctor. I got to see the doctor. I got to see the doctor. I was that way too. You pull up to an office, whoever's name is on that sign, you're like, that's the only person I'm here to see. I'm going to be friends with everyone else. I'm going to make a little small talk, do the total office call, whatever. But at the end of the day, I just want to see the doctor, and you got to get out of that mentality, guys. Yeah, yes, the doctor is the goal. At the end of the day, majority of doctors, they are the final decision makers. but that doesn't mean that you're always going to be successful getting in front of them. So you have to have other individuals that have access to that doctor, and these are all the other people that work on the staff, right? Start with the nurse practitioner. Start with the PA. Don't ever go to an office and I'm so guilty of this. Doctor can't see me. I set up a lunch a month from now. All right, see you later, folks. And I leave, right? But you really do want to make that real total office call where I know Dr. Jones is going to see me today, but is Karen available or is Steve available? I think he's really going to love this message because I know that we talked about this last time, and it's something that, we just had this new product come out, or this new benefit that we're doctors are getting out of our product, that I think Steve would really be interested in this, and there always are going to be, I'm not going to say you're going to get in there every time, but they're going to be easier to see than the doctor. It just happens. It's just the way it works, guys. And the other thing is, people don't always ask to see them. So they don't have that annoyed, another rep attitude like a lot of the doctors get, because these poor people get bombarded from reps all day long. And there's sometimes they see 30, 40 reps come in their offices a day. It's real, guys. That beats the hell out of you. And then you got to see patients and actually get your job done. And then you got these people just being disruptors all day. So you want to get past being the disruptor to bringing the person that brings value. And trust me, guys, there are the reps that do that, and they're the ones that get to see the doctor. But it's got to start somewhere. So start calling on the nurses, the PA. Even if you've got to have a conversation with the receptionist, get more info. But say, what can I do to make your day easier? I don't want to keep coming in here and being a pain in the ass. Just showing that. And it's not like they're going to give you some real insightful thing that you can do for them, but you never know. But showing them that you care, that little by little, that access starts to break down. And again, you're not going to get in front of everyone. You could do this for 5 years and someone like, that's great, Joe, you've been the best. This doctor still is not going to see you. We'll talk about that, on what to do when you're in that case where you're just not going to sell to everyone. It's just a fact. But you got to start trying to reach out to other people that are in that practice. Don't be so tunnel vision that it's doctor, because the majority of doctors will not see you on that first call. I'd say almost 99 to 100%, excuse me, are not going to see you the first time you walk into an office. It's just not going to happen. They don't know who you are. So always make that total office call and get real relationships. Starting to bring real value to other members, and they can eventually get in the doctor's ear, or get the doctor, get you in front of the doctor to say, like, hey, the whole goal is you want to get this person to go, oh, wow, I actually do think Dr. Jones would like this. That's something he definitely doesn't know about, because he mentioned that this being an issue last week. I'm going to talk to him about this, and I'm going to see if I can get you a couple minutes with him, because I think it's going to be valuable. And at least now you have a fighting chance working through someone else, because sometimes the doctors don't give a shit, and they'll be like, I don't care what we use, and that PA could have this say and say, hey, listen, I like Joe. I really like what his product does because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I'm gonna book him for the next case to make sure he's there, because I think he's gonna love this product. So that happens a lot, guys. So don't ever underestimate people just because they don't have the doctor in front of their name, that they don't have a real presence or a real say in the practice. I mean, I learned this the hard way, ignoring an office manager that, I just knew her as Sharon. Again, I was younger, an idiot, didn't do my due diligence, didn't realize it was the doctor's wife, right? And believe me, a lot of these office managers that are married to the doctor, a lot of times they might even have more say than the doctor. So do not underestimate any of these people, because you never know how much say they have within that practice. And they will eventually be able to help you get in front of these doctors. So make sure you're doing the total office call. Next, working with other reps. All right. So this doesn't have to be anyone in your company. I'm talking about start to build your network of reps that you're in the field with, that you're not directly competing with. Now, I would suggest you build relationships with everyone. Even when I called on Stim, the big competitors that I have were Medtronic and St. Jude. And a lot of reps would always look at them like, oh, they're the enemy. It's bullshit, guys. You don't have to have that attitude, because you want to be able to share information that can help you get access to a doctor that you may not have, but I might have access to a doctor that someone else needs. And you guys can work together to help each other break into some of these offices. Like I used to do joint lunches that had no competition with my product. There were just other reps that called on the doctor and say, you know what, this time I'm going to do this lunch. Why don't you come with me and we'll talk about our products? Because a lot of times, guys, the doctors give instructions to the staff and say, by the way, we don't want anyone in here that's selling XYZ because we already are using 3 different vendors. So no one new that's selling XYZ, right? Whatever that is. But then there's times now you're doing a lunch with another rep that he's got a great relationship with. You start talking about your product. Trust me, guys, they're not going to sit here and go, wait a minute, get out of this office, right? If it does bother them, obviously you're not going to keep doing that. But majority of doctors, they don't care. They're busy. Once they're in front of you during a lunch, it's your way to now get time with that doctor, and then you could reciprocate by saying to that rep, hey, by the way, I'm really close with Dr. Green. I got a great relationship with her. If you ever want, do you have a relationship? Oh, no, I don't. I've been trying to get in with Dr. Green. Perfect. So let's go in there next week. I actually have a lunch next week. Why don't you join me? And enough, believe me, guys, some of you do this, and I applaud you for doing it, but a lot don't. Again, so that's why I'm trying to bring up things that you might say, well, Joe, I've already heard of this. Okay, well, show me that you're doing this all the time. Show me I want to see your Rolodex of reps that you are collaborating with, not just reps that you got their cards and you heard of their name. That's bullshit. I want guys that you're actually collaborating. What are you doing with these individuals? Because you should have a plan for a lot of these doctors. If you just keep telling your manager that doctor's no C, no, he's an OC doctor. I mean, if you want to get on a PIP quickly, or you want them to start wondering if you're the right person for this job, keep talking about no-C doctors and lack of access like it's something you have no control over. Trust me, the managers, your companies, they will start going, well, what the hell do we have this person for? Because I was in your shoes, and every time they would tell me, well, Joe, that's what you get paid. This is what you get paid to do. So figure it out. All right. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to figure it out. We're always going to have a plan that we're trying to accomplish with each one of these physicians. I don't care how hard they are to see, guys. So you got to actually have this mapped out too, where you're showing like, okay, here's the game plan for Dr. Jones. I couldn't see him. So now I've started to work with his PA, Bob, who's starting to see the value in our product, still using Medtronic or whoever else, but at least it's showing that you're trying to do this. I also sent, 5 different videos covering these topics, to get in front of him via LinkedIn, via whatever other social media you want to talk about, Facebook, Instagram, I don't care what it is, but there's ways that you're trying to get a message and get in front of this doctor. The more that you could show these, outside the box, not the standard, just walking in and out of an office, you're going to make your company feel more comfortable that they got the right person in this role. Because trust me, guys, a lot of your managers, they're not going to have an answer. They're not. They ask them, say, what else should we do? What is it? Next time you're in an interview, outright ask that. You want a good question to ask? That's a real question that shows that you care. And it's not the cookie cutter questions that you hear all the time, where it's just tell me about what your best rep does. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those questions, but ask them that. Be like, what are good reps doing to overcome the lack of access? How are they getting their messaging to doctors? Ask them, see what they say. Because you'll get a good indication if this is a manager that is even thinking that way. Because any manager should have like their eyes light up like, oh, access. Anyone with access, anyone in this industry, when you mention access, that should trigger some sort of response in their face, some facial response. If they're just like, oh, access, we don't really have a problem with access. I want to know what mythical planet they're on that they see that. So that's the key, guys. Ask that during the next interview. And you might get some creative answers. But a lot of these managers, this is new territory too, or this is territory that has been difficult for people for years, is overcoming the lack of access. And these are just some ideas just to get going, just start working. And if you're doing these 3 things that we talked about with every doctor that you're having a problem with access, we could discuss further, on a one-on-one. Again, message me and we could talk about it. But until you're trying all three of these with each of these doctors, then you can't reach out yet, just because I'm going to ask you that. Have you tried this? And what have been the results? And majority of people that have tried this and have been more consistent, especially with the videos, but really making that total office call, really working with other reps, and using that barter system of like, hey, I got this relationship. I'll trade you my good relationship with this good relationship that you have, and we're going to help give ourselves better access. If you do all 3 of these things, you're going to notice a difference. But I'm going to pause right here, guys, and see if we have any questions from the crowd. James, how we doing, buddy?
We're doing good, Joe. We got a couple of questions in the crowd for the babyface assassin himself.
Got rid of it today, man. It was getting too long and just gets annoying. So
it must be nice living. It must be nice living in Miami where it's warm out and you're not freezing up here in New Jersey like I am. The beard keeps my face warm.
Well, I'm the only idiot that grows a beard when he came back to Miami. It didn't really make sense. He thought I lived up in Maine or somewhere like in Canada, but it's whatever. Go back and forth.
That's so funny. Joe, is shadowing cases still possible with all the new access rules?
It's not. It's harder, but it's still possible. So it depends on the company, and it could, there's many factors that can come into play, but usually companies still, especially in device, they'll have a ride along shadow day, which is usually the last step in the interview process, where they'll have it set up. Again, you're going to be shadowing someone that odds are they have you granted access in that hospital. They have you, they have a good relationship with the doctor. So the doctor's used to them bringing in new reps. So it's very rarely going to be that no-see, impossible, bad relationship, or the first surgery you've ever done with a doctor that you've been working on for 2 years that they're going to bring you into there. No, it's going to be probably a more friendly atmosphere, but it's something that definitely still happens. Not as frequent as it did 10, 15 years ago, but it's still out there. And anytime you can get in a case with a rep, especially for a company you want to work for, I mean, that's gold, guys. That's gold. But just remember, this is not, you're still interviewing. This is not the post-game celebration where you're going in there now and it's like, oh, this is a cool day that I get to hang out with one of the reps and build friendship with them. And then all of a sudden you're a dumpster fire in that case. You're on your phone the whole time. Excuse me. You're talking in the middle of the surgery for no reason. And doctors are looking at you like, who's this guy? So you want to still maintain that professional quorum, because it could be the last step that they say, hey, I don't really like this guy. Let's bring in whoever else we were doing a ride along with. So remember, you're still auditioning. It's still an interview. So you want to make sure you nail any of these, these shadow days, ride alongs, whatever they want to call it. Make sure this is your time to really shine. And the one last piece of advice that I give for any of these ride alongs, I say it all the time, the less you're on your phone, the better you're going to do in that ride along. Get off your phone, put it on silent, keep it in your pocket. Look at your phone during driving from one account to the next, where you'll have a lot of questions you can ask the rep. You could check some of your messages, or at lunchtime, go over that. Do not be that rep that's constantly looking on your phone. That is one of the number one reasons people don't move forward with a job offer when they see this shit on the ride along. It pisses off companies. So have a notepad, taking notes. You could do that all day long. Replace your phone for a notepad that day and let family, friends know, hey guys, I'm going to be inaccessible this day. Don't reach out to me. Don't tell me about stupid fantasy scores or anything that was going on that day. I'm focusing on the case that I'm in and this job. And trust me, guys, you're going to do better on these ride-alongs. But yes, it's still possible.
We have a question from Roy Mwangai, I guess is how you say it. Do you think there's any possibility one can get hired without a bachelor's, or could someone with no experience and a master's degree get a management position?
Okay, so the first question, can you get hired without a bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. But it's you're going to drastically reduce your options. So I would say, first off, it depends on where you're looking. So let me just clarify. You could possibly break into medical device or distribution, especially a lot of distributors out there. They don't care if you have a bachelor's, right? So you could break in at 1099. You definitely can break in. So anywhere where you could be an independent contractor, and a lot of you guys overlook these. I get it. They don't give you the cushy salary. They don't give you the company car. Everything's out of pocket. That sucks. I get it. But you could also make a lot of money and do really well for a lot of these 1099s. So they'll give you a job because majority of them are going to say, we don't care. You're basically whatever you sell, we're going to pay you a commission on. So they're not as strict as some of the big device companies, but you could still possibly break in. If you're trying to get into pharmaceutical sales specifically, it's almost impossible to get in without a college degree. Now, you're going to probably tell me, Joe, my cousin, my buddy, my uncle, he got a job without a college degree. Sure, I'm sure there's outliers out there. I'm just being very general. You're not going to break into pharma without a bachelor's. It just doesn't happen. They typically want a bachelor's degree, and then they want to see at least 1 year of B2B sales before they make offers, before they're actually going to look at anyone for some of their entry-level roles. So just be prepared. Start looking more on their distribution device side, maybe even some diagnostic companies that, smaller mom and pops that they don't have all those strict HR rules. But pharma, it's going to be something, guys, that if you do break in, let me know the company name because I would love to know. But it's very rare without that degree. So I hope that answers the first part. And the second one is, can you read that? It's hard to see from here.
Could someone with no experience and a master's degree get a management position?
Master's degree, people really don't care about. Don't get me wrong. When you have two people that are very equal going for a role, and then one person has a master's, then they might go with that person because they got the master's, because it is a management role, and some of the duties could coincide with some of the attributes of someone with a master's. But odds are the master's is going to make a difference. Management roles, more often than not, they want to see that you know how to manage. The master's degree doesn't really show you that. That just shows more schooling. So it's interesting in medical sales that a lot of companies still want that degree, but once you have it, it's like no one cares about it. They don't care if you went to Harvard and you're a Harvard bio major. So if you give me two candidates, you give me a Harvard bio graduate with no sales experience, and then you give me a county college communications major or something that doesn't have to really do directly with medical, but that person has a year of B2B experience working for, say, Enterprise or ADP, that person's going to get a job offer 9 out of 10 times before the Harvard bio person. Because at the end of the day, this person shows that they know how to sell. They have sales experience. That's what they care about more. So these roles, degrees, they don't take you as far like they do in other industries. They just don't. You can have that master's, but the first question I'd say, but did you ever manage anyone? And then also, I also have 50 people waiting in line, all these resumes that they do have management experience. So how can I overlook all those people because you have a master's? So I know it's tough to hear, but definitely this is not one of those fields that your higher academic degrees are really going to get you that much higher in the, up at the higher on the totem pole in terms of management and leadership position. They want to see that you know how to do the job, you know how to do it well. Then you can lead people in this industry. Then you'll start seeing those promotable positions being available. But I don't suggest the 4-year degree, yes, but all that secondary schooling, don't do it just for the fact of trying to get a promotion in medical.
We have, does access improve once you have clinical champions inside, or does the hospital still block reps even when surgeons want them there?
So at the end of the day, 100% it helps when you have a clinical champion. That is always your goal. You always have to start somewhere, especially in the hospital space. You need a champion because you don't walk into hospitals with your bag, showing your product, and then the hospital goes, wow, this is a great idea. Let's make this available for every doctor. It's a process, guys. For instance, we've talked about this. A lot of you guys know about this, but for some of you newbies out there, especially when you're selling a device, it's got to get approved by the hospital, and it gets approved first by the Value Analysis Committee. You'll hear the VAC. So you'll hear that terminology, that acronym used, the VAC, the VAC, the VAC. First time I heard that, I didn't know what the hell it was for the first 6 months until I finally had the guts to ask someone, what the hell does VAC mean? Because I felt like an idiot that everyone's using the term and I don't know what it was. And obviously back then it wasn't so easy. You could type things into your phone. You actually had to research it. So, but it's got to go through the VAC committee first. They have to approve it. The only way they can approve it is by having a clinical champion. You need a doctor in that hospital to say, yes, this is why I want to use this. This is why we need this. And, again, it's more work. You got to prep that doctor, really tell him the reasons why it should be used, that about, but also you got to have the documentation that he might need. He might need white paper, studies. So there's this whole process that comes in to just getting a product approved. I'm drawing a blank here, but bottom line, you do need those clinical champions because they can only make your lives much, much easier, especially in the hospital space. Because again, nobody is going to buy something from you. The value analysis you are not allowed to go into. So that's something you guys should understand. Those meetings, when they happen, you cannot be in those meetings. So you need a champion that actually is going to present in your place. So I should have brought that up from the beginning, that it's not like, I'll just go to the VAC committee meeting. No, unless they give you some special permission to go to the meeting, you're going to need a clinical person to present the information there. And that's your champion.
How do you see technology influencing access in the next 3 years? VR, remote case support, AI?
Everything. It's going to get worse and worse. It's going to get harder and harder. It's been like this for years. But when you see the progression, like some of us have seen it over the past 25 years, I mean, again, to be able to just walk into a hospital, I used to be able to go put scrubs on, sign in where there was no vendor credentialing. You just signed your name in, just so they have tracked that you've been in the hospital. And then I would just go up and walk around, wait outside of operating rooms. I would look at the board and see, Dr. Jones is in room 3. His case started about an hour ago. Okay, he should be coming out soon. So I'm going to just wait outside the door and then look to catch that doctor before he goes into his next case. Sometimes you go to the scrub sink. A lot of times you'd see a lot of sales calls. Doctors literally, usually are scrubbing for, 3 to 5 minutes sometimes. So you get a couple minutes where they're fine talking to you because they got to do that anyway. So a lot of reps used to do that, or they go into the lounge, so you'll sit in the lounge, wait for doctors that are taking breaks in between cases where you can talk to them. That all changed. So you have to be able to get with some of this new technology. When people hear AI, they get nervous that it's like the robots in Terminator 2. It's our movie reference, by the way. It's not a good one, but
stepped in.
Yeah, but again, it is something. I mean, James Cameron actually had an article. It came like a few months ago, like a joke saying, "I warned you about this 40 years ago." With Terminator, don't have that. I mean, obviously we're laughing and joking about Terminator, but don't have that approach or that mentality. Like, shit, the robots are coming. I'm going to lose my job. Okay. At the end of the day, guys, everyone's throwing out all this data that half the jobs are going to be gone, 90% will be gone in 10 years. We have no idea. But the best thing you can do really is to embrace it, is to use the technology. Get with companies that want to get with the times and do this. And a lot of companies you will see don't. So you want to see, this could be another question during an interview. What is the company doing to prepare this next stage of medical sales where, AI and all these, virtual reality, all these tools are out there? How are they, how are they moving forward or collaborating with these new tools? See what they say. Because I'll tell you what, if a company says we are not doing any of that crap, we believe in the old school approach, hard work wins, run for the friggin' hills, guys. Do not go for that company. You want to be with the company that is going to really put that's going to be with the times, get with the times, and really go out there and try to improve and come and collaborate with all these technologies. Because again, like I said, we're working on this approach that some people could call it AI. Bottom line is it's getting information into reps' hands before they call on doctors. It's going to help them become a better sales rep. I'm so excited for this because I know that this is the future. I know the old way of doing things don't work. It just doesn't. You could try, and some things, yes, they still work. But for the most part, you're not going to get where you want to be unless you get with the times. So just embrace all these new changes, guys. Don't look at it as it's a competitor. This should be another tool in your bag.
Joe, how much responsibility falls on the reps versus the health system when it comes to improving access? Who needs to change first?
Well, I mean, if you're that powerful as the everyday sales rep that you can implement changes throughout hospital systems, then God bless you. But the average rep, you don't have much of a say. So this is the new playing field that you're playing in. I mean, it's a perfect analogy. It's like an NFL player. They have no say in the rules. They go out there and just do the best they can. There's all these rule changes and stuff that happens. For instance, to be like a defensive back, and with all these rules that you can't touch receivers, any kind of contact, you can't even make tackles. When a running back is coming head on to you, you can't go head on to them, or you're spearing. And it just makes it so much harder for a defensive player. But the bottom line is, this is the way the rules are now. So either quit if you don't like it or adjust. And that's what you have to do, basically. It's adjusting to the rules out there and figuring it out. If this doctor won't see you face to face, do you say, okay, well, I'm just going to say, screw it, never go to that person again? Because if you did that with everyone, you'll see your list drop drastically and you only have a handful of doctors to call on. So you say, okay, that sucks that I can't get in front of this person, but how else can I get my messaging across? And it's the reps that are always thinking. It sounds like you have to come up with such amazing new mind-blowing ideas that no one else has ever thought of. It's actually doing them too, because a lot of people don't. Again, getting back to the videos, guys, you'll tell me that you're doing this, but did you just make one video 6 months ago to send to a doctor? You send it to him once or twice. He didn't respond and he gave up on that whole idea, because that's what happens a lot. Bottom line, get creative. This is your playing field. So you got to figure it out. And the ones that figure it out are the ones that are in the leaderboard every month.
What's your view on reps doing peer-to-peer introductions on LinkedIn to help break access walls?
I love it. I mean, start, and that's another great point. You're going to get, let's forget even the reps at this point. Start with those couple of doctors, because for the most part, I'm giving this very grim, worst case scenario that you're starting in a territory with all new doctors that have never heard of you. You've never heard of them. You've never called on them. There's no existing business from a previous rep. Of course, that's a very tough, challenging role. Usually we'll get for someone with experience in the industry that does have relationships, but there's usually someone that you're taking over from. And it could be bad that the previous rep sucked, or it could be, good because the previous rep sucked and now they're looking for a fresh face. But usually you're going to get some information or some doctors that have previously used your products. and that like your products. Start with them. Who do they work with? Who are they friends with? Is there any other doctor? If you got a doctor that likes your product, guys, first thing you want to ask them is like, is there any other doctors that you know that would see the same values you do in this product? Anyone. Get them to send the email and copy you on the email, or send a text and copy you on that text to that other doctor. Start there, because a lot of you think you have good relationships with some doctors. That's a good test right there. Say, okay, Dr. Jones, you think would be good, would like this? Can you do me a favor? Can you copy us on a text? Or can you send an email and copy us? Just quick, brief. I can even write it for you if you want me to write it for you. But something that you give your approval that this is why you're using this drug or this product. See if they'll send it for you. See if they'll reach out with you on it. If they'll do that, that's a great sign of a great relationship you have, but it's also a great way to get in front of these other doctors. So utilize the relationships you have, especially with those couple of doctors. Start there, because they can help you really grow your business by getting in front of these tougher doctors.
Do you think reps should invest more time in understanding the business side of hospitals so they can, if they want better entry points?
Yes, because what that means is you're finding out what those individuals' key drivers are. You know, we talk about this all the time. We talk about this every day in the RepPath Academy. You know, you have to find out. It doesn't matter if it's medical sales. This can go for any sales position, guys. I don't care what you're selling. You have a customer, they have key drivers, things that they want, things that are important to them. That's what a driver is. All right. What are you doing to sell your product that is focused on those drivers, not your own drivers, not the company's drivers? That's where you go wrong. When a company says that this is why we're doing this, and this is why it's important to us, this is why it should be important to you, most companies aren't going to talk that way. But bottom line, you don't want to go into it with things that are just important to you and your company. If you're not making it about your customer and trying to sell towards their drivers, you're going to fail. So make sure that you're doing that, because that's the way to really, be successful.
Joe, for reps who are watching that are brand new, what should their first 30 days look like if they want to build access strategically?
Okay. So just to clarify, your first 30 days hired at a company will typically be training. You're either going to be home studying, where they give you a bunch of books, you're going to read, you're going to have tests, exams, taking online modules. Then maybe they'll fly you into the home office, or you'll spend a week or a couple of weeks, in office training. But your first 30 days in the field, okay, you really want to figure out, first off, you should be meeting with your manager before those first 30 days to see where your opportunities are. You want to start there. You don't want to start your first 30 days going to the most difficult physicians that have never used you. If your company has this data, get to the doctors that are currently using you. Get to your key customers. They are the most important. You're going to figure out the tough ones as you go on. You don't want to start with the hardest, most challenging questions or problems. No, start where the path of least resistance. If you do have some business out there, you want to maintain it, because the longer you're out of that territory, there's no one in that territory. You spend your first 30 days going after all these tough doctors to see tough access doctors. You're going to get another month or so that your key customers haven't seen someone there. That means that's another month of competition coming in there and fighting, trying to get that business without you fighting for it. So make sure you're getting in front of those doctors first, and then you could start figuring out these tougher ones. So go where you have the business. You want to secure that business first in those first 30 days.
When hospitals move to a closed vendor model, what can reps realistically do besides wait for contracts to shift?
Well, I mean, it depends on what's really in those contracts. I have seen many times that if a doctor wants to use you and gives their justification, they're going to be able to use you. So, for instance, usually a doctor can get I don't want to say usually, but sometimes there's situations where, like this happened to us when I was selling stimulation. There was already two vendors that they only wanted two vendors in this in the spine space. So they were using the other two vendors. Then we came in, but we had a doctor that really wanted to use our system. So they allowed a trial case so he can use us without us actually being an approved vendor yet. But then after that, if you wanted to continue to use us, then the hospital will sit down with you, whoever in purchasing, and then say, okay, well, if he's going to continue to use us, it can't be more than X amount percentage of the total cases, because that'll interfere with our contracts that we have in place with these other companies. But they allow almost like a one-off every once in a while. But it's a good thing to be in, because that's when you can have the pricing discussion and get that approved. Because now all of a sudden now a second doctor wants to use you. Now what? So the more pressure you put on an institution by getting more doctors now that wants to start using you, you will see those contracts can change. Because at the end of the day, guys, it's still in the doctor's court. Don't get me wrong. If there's a product out there that one company has that the doctor can't live without, that's tough to get your business in for. But if you got 3 Me Too products that do similar things, there's always a way to get in there. And that's by when you build more and more support clinically from more doctors, it's going to put more pressure on the institution they can't keep saying no. They got more doctors. They don't want to piss off their doctors, because these are revenue, especially, cardiologists, neurosurgeons. I mean, a lot of the surgical teams, they're bringing cases in that they can go to another hospital. So believe me, they don't want to lose that revenue, because they're the revenue drivers, those doctors. They could just easily go to a hospital down the street. I'll give it to them. They don't care. They're not giving me all these problems. They actually will use us. Trust me, they don't want to do that. So it's tough. It doesn't happen overnight, but you got to build it. But eventually you could get past some of those contracts. Now, the quick, short answer, the flip side is sometimes, no, you can't. Sometimes there are things in place, but it's rare that it's absolutely you're never getting in, because you can't go back to your company and say they have a 3-year contract, but in 3 years, I can have this discussion with them. Guys, you got to come up with a better answer than that. And you got to be trying to get your product in there, because if you go by that mentality, you won't get any sales. You'll see every hospital saying, sorry, we're already contracted with someone else. Those contracts are made to be broken or adjusted to get your business in there too. But you got to be able to show that value, or no one will care.
Have you seen access issues differ between community hospitals versus major health systems, and which one is tougher and why?
Well, typically, again, there's always an outlier. There's always an exception to the rule. Typically, the community hospitals are easier because they don't have as much red tape. Saying that, though, more and more of these community hospitals are being, bought up by these larger integrated delivery networks, these IDNs, and they're becoming parts of these larger systems. So now they're under that umbrella where it's just as challenging, no matter, little community hospital or the big IDM player. But if you're going to apples to apples, smaller community hospital typically is going to have less red tape than the big monster teaching institution.
How do new reps break into accounts when veteran reps already have relationships and hospital is limiting vendor entry?
Got to show value. That's it. It's figuring out what your customers' key drivers are and then selling with value, bringing in value to what is important to them and providing that. That's how you do that. Now that sounds easy as, I just gave you maybe a year or two of work and just summed it up in one sentence, but that's really what it takes. The more value that you can bring, then all those offices that are no access, they don't no-see doctors, all those things start to change because they see what you're bringing in there. I think we got time for one more.
I was just going to say, I think we got time for one more. Does being too aggressive with trying to get into the OR hurt a rep's reputation long-term, even if the intentions are good?
Yeah. And you got to have common sense, guys. I mean, I'll give a ridiculous situation that probably has never really happened, but imagine me running into an operating room where doctors got a patient on the table doing a surgery and me walking in and go, hey, Dr. Jones, when you're done with this case, I'll be outside because I got something really important to talk to you about. Don't walk away from me after this case. I'll be right out there. Okay. Of course, that doctor's like, who the hell is this guy? And freak out and say, please don't ever allow him in here again. Please tell him never come back in this hospital. You got to have some sort of just common sense, guys. You want to be pushy. You have to. You have to be aggressive, but you don't want to be an idiot. If you visibly see that this doctor is getting pissed off or this is not the right time, you got to have that self-awareness to say, okay, I am not blowing, all this effort that I put in just because I'm going to be too aggressive on this call. You got to be aggressive, but read signs when this is not the right time. All right. And doctors are patient. Most of the time, they're very patient. Even when they're busy, they're so used to this, they might take a minute or two. But if they're going, Joe, today's not the day. Today's not the day. I know it's not the day, doctor, but just listen to this. Like, okay, guys, you got to read the room. So that's the one little piece of advice. Again, we could talk offline for any specific situations you guys are dealing with, and I can help navigate through that. But overall, it's not worth just to get your messaging out. It's going to cost you in the long run. When you obviously know this is not the right time, this is a bad day, don't do it because you're just going to piss that doctor off, guys, and then it's going to hurt you later on. You'll gain more respect. Like, I totally understand. Today's not a good day. I'll come back in next week. And if you could get the time for him, like, by the way, is Tuesday better? I'm going to come back in then. Then you come back in Tuesday and all of a sudden the doctor is like, shit, I just said no to this guy the other day. Today's still a bad day, but they're more likely to give you a second. But if not, then they say, Joe, today's still bad. Again, common sense. Figure out another time that's better.
That's all we got, Joe.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. James, thank you. This was, I thought this was a great call, guys, because this is something I'm really passionate about because it's real. This is, all you guys out there that are in the industry for a long time, you guys know this is a real challenge. And I'm passionate about fixing this, or being a part of solutions that can help us gain access. So we're not getting frustrated because it does get frustrating. So I hope you guys got a lot out of this today. As always, guys, please, if you do want to see a copy of this, as a reminder, please make sure you're going on YouTube, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. You see the link below. Subscribe so you can get this recording and everything else that we have, all our content. We've got a lot of valuable content on there, guys. So please make sure you're doing that. RepPath Academy members, as always, guys, if you want to break into this industry, we are going to give you the tools to help you break in. The only non-negotiable we have is that you got to put in the work. But for you guys that are willing to put the work in, we're going to help you break into this industry. We're going to give you a lot of tips and tricks, but at the end of the day, we're going to teach you how to put hard work into getting into this field. We've done it with thousands of reps. We've been doing this for years. We do it every week, guys. So please make sure you're reaching out to me either at reppath.com or send me a message on LinkedIn so we can tell you a little bit more about the Academy in detail and answer some of your questions. Lastly, guys, for any lobby members, make sure you give the promo code Licata, Licata, so you could get additional discounts. But I want to thank you all again today. As always, we'll be here every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I hope to see you guys this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Have a great day.